Hey guys, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another episode of Achieving Perfection. This is going to be for the Great Tournament and the Food node, so the blue, black, green one. Now, the best Planeswalker for this, well, I suppose there are two really good options. The best one that you can use is going to be New Garruk, so if you don't want to buy Garruk for money, wait until it comes out for crystals, and you're definitely going to want this walker. Next best choice is actually going to be Oko, because Oko is going to create food. But that being said, per the usual, I'm going to go ahead, show off the decks that I would suggest, and then for this particular loop, I'm going to go ahead and get into like how would I deck build. So if you are a player that did not get a bunch of food poles in your Eldraine packs, I'd go with something like this. The super key card that you want to have is Gingerbread Cabin. If you did get a little bit luckier, then I would go ahead and go with something like this here. All right, let's get into the objectives for this particular node. Ba-dong! Cooking contest. We've got a perma support. This says whenever you create a food token, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colors, then lose 2 life. When a support you own with the food subtype is destroyed, your first creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So this one is just really going to be incentivizing playing food. The destruction of the foods is going to outweigh the loss of life for creating foods. And then the food dying is going to go ahead, or being consumed, however you want to look at it, is going to buff up your creatures. So what do you need to do? You need to win. You need to cook, which is create 4 or more food tokens. And you need to be a healer. You need to gain 15 or more life during the fight. So for cook, create food tokens. Pretty simple. Healer, pop 5 of your food tokens. That's it. So let's get into the decks. Now, this one, I'm actually really proud of how this beginner deck turned out. I should go ahead and say that I've gone ahead and tested both of these decks in the training grounds pretty extensively to make sure that there aren't any bugs that'll crash your game. I did not encounter any, so if you encounter them, please let us know so that other people don't encounter them. But I've played through numerous times trying to weed out bugs for you guys, and I did not encounter any bugs. So this deck, it really hinges around Gingerbread Cabin. This entire node, honestly, to me, hinges around Gingerbread Cabin. So if you've got all the different things that fetch lands, this card alone achieves the entire objective. So it's a land, it comes in, it's a gem converter to green, and when it enters the board, if there are 8 or more green gems, you create 2 food tokens. So if you've got stuff that's going to fetch lands, this thing produces an insane amount of food tokens just by making a bunch of these. You want to have green gems out, so I threw in Nissa's Pilgrimage. Everyone should have this card, and it's going to convert more gems to green, which makes it more likely for food to come out. Beyond those, what else is in here? Death Sprout. This is going to serve as removal, and it's going to fetch our land. This card really surprised me, I have to honestly say. For this node, this one really surprised me, because I saw this card and thought, this is trash. But it's really not for this node. Like, this card is really good for this node. So when it enters the board, you're going to create a food token, and whenever a food token you control is destroyed, draw a card. Now keep in mind, if you're making a bunch of food tokens, you're going to be converting a bunch of gems to green, because this is a mono green walker. And in converting all those gems to green, you're going to be ultimately getting a bunch of landfalls, you're going to be destroying food, and you're going to be gaining life and drawing cards to Trail of Crumbs. Also, with Trail of Crumbs, let's say that you go ahead and use Giant Opportunity. Giant Opportunity either creates food tokens or it destroys them. So if it destroys them, that means that Giant Opportunity turns into a 10 mana, gain 6 life, draw 2 cards, and make a 7/7 giant, right? So in destroying the food tokens, that's what's giving us the 6 life. We're drawing 2 cards to the support, and we're getting the 7/7 giant. That's just a whole lot of net worth. And otherwise, if you create the 3 food tokens, you're also going to be converting 6 gems to green, which is really, really good. Knight of Autumn is a pretty solid creature. It's a 3/2 for 10, which is meh. But it's going to come in, it's going to destroy a support for your opponent, and then it's going to give you 4 life. So that's going to help to the life gain objective, which is nice. Ideally, this doesn't just target food because there's going to be a lot of food here, but Fierce Witch Stalker, this is a card that everyone should have because it's from the Trick or Treat event, but it's a 4/4 for 11, which is meh, but it creates a food when it comes out. So that's also going to convert gems and help gain life, and that makes it pretty decent. And then finally, I threw in Dwynen Gilt-Leaf Dane. This is a 5/6 reach. I threw it in because it's from Origins, so I kind of figured that I can cheat a little bit and throw in some rares from Origins. This has an activate gem that's going to cause you to gain life and buff up all of your creatures. Savra, you don't really need this one because you're not going to have black creatures, but if your green creatures die, you gain life. And so that's going to make it so that you get that life gain objective. And then finally, Court of Calling lets you fetch whichever creature you want, and so you can use that to fetch your food token producing fellow if you need more food, or you can use it to fetch something with more meat to it. Now, people who have bigger collections. If you have bigger collections, do something, anything, kind of, sort of like this, right? You don't have to use Garruk for this. I just think that Garruk is the best because of Stalk the Prey. This serves as removal, life gain, and card draw. And black and green have a lot of really good food cards. But honestly, as long as you have the main pieces of this, so Cavalier of Thorns and or Primeval Titan and or Golos, although honestly Golos is for any color, then you can make this deck and have it run to perfection. So this deck is disgusting. Like, it's absurd. So the Primeval Titan, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, it fetches a land and brings it out. Cavalier of Thorns, when it enters the battlefield, fetches a land and you play it. Golos, when it comes out, fetches a land, brings it out onto the battlefield, and has the activate ability that's going to play a whole bunch of things. There's only 1 land in this deck. Do not make the mistake of putting more than 1 land in this deck. Just use 1. Just use Gingerbread Cabin. This thing is going to come out every turn to Primeval Titan. It's going to come out multiple times a turn if you've got Golos down and you're triggering those activate gems and you're getting copies of the Knight, or you're getting copies of Golos, or you're playing more copies of Primeval Titan. You're going to get so many stacks of this Gingerbread Cabin down that it's just going to create like crazy food. And in creating that crazy amount of food, you're going to convert a ridiculous number of gems to green and not draw cards, but you're going to convert all those gems to green and you're going to be golden. Sorin is in here for the lifelink. So you're going to be losing life because you're going to be creating so many food tokens. You're going to want the lifelink. Trust me, you're going to want to run Sorin in here. The Great Aurora. You can use this to board wipe and gain a crap ton of life because, let's face it, when you cast the Great Aurora, you're going to destroy all the food. And so if you need to live, you cast this, you get a reset, and it's going to give you a ton of life. Honestly, if you're using Garruk though, that Stalk the Prey should give you enough life. That ability is bonkers. Court of Calling. This just makes it easier to fetch the boys. Honestly, I'm going to swap out Court of Calling for Killer Instinct, but yeah, that's up to you. Yep. Bake into a Pie. This serves as removal that creates food. That's part of what I like about black. You get removal that also makes food, but that's really the only black card. Well, I guess Sorin, right? But you could run this with green-white and use Sorin, and then swap Bake into a Pie into something else. But really the key here is have your land fellows come out and get Gingerbread Cabin. Okay, what if you don't have Gingerbread Cabin? Now, that's first up, I'm really sorry if you don't have Gingerbread Cabin for this. That card is definitely the best case scenario here. So then what you'd want to do is go to Eldraine, type in food. Ignore the colors. Just type in food. You're going to see that basically everything is green or black. There's like 1 blue card, I think, and there's some colorless stuff, but it's all green. Yeah, it's all green and black. So determine what food stuff do you have. Ideally, you're not playing... Sorry about that. Ideally, you're not playing this, because this is awful. This creates food tokens, but don't use it. It's bad. It's really, really bad. Witch's Oven is kind of cool, but definitely not worth it. Don't use this. Not good. Trail of Crumbs is awesome. If you wind up going a deck that has blue, this card is really cool, but unfortunately it's not a guaranteed food token creation. You need Adamant. As you scroll over here, there are cards like Feasting Troll King that's going to be really darn good for this because it's going to create a bunch of food tokens, which is going to convert a bunch of gems to green. So that's pretty good. Savvy Hunter here is going to be pretty solid too. It's going to create a food token every time it attacks. So if you've got this card, you're getting a food token every turn. It's not going to take too long for you to achieve that food objective. It's also going to have an activate ability that destroys food tokens and draws cards. So that's going to make it easier for the life gain, and it's going to fill up your hand with cards. So other than that, honestly, the rest of these cards are pretty skippable. Like when this creature deals damage to an opposing creature, create a food. If you've got something with Berserker, then you can create food tokens. But try and go green, and no pun intended. And then once you go green, figure out what food cards you have and play them and win. So I hope this helped you. I hope you get perfect, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.